This is what we call classic Coke. I'll put it in the bag. Classic Coke. And what they did was they were so afraid, Coca-Cola was so afraid of the press, of the media, of the competition finding out that they were changing their formula. And the reason they were changing the formula is that their market share was dipping because they were losing market share to sweeter flavors. So they needed to change their formula so it would be a sweeter flavor. And that's what they did. And they went and they did their due diligence and they tested. They tested new Coke against old Coke or classic Coke. And you know what won in the taste test? New Coke won. New Coke won. But they were so paranoid, that anyone would find out they changed the formula, that they only conducted blind taste tests. Only blind taste tests. They never actually had somebody taste real Coke, classic Coke, against new Coke in its own bottle. And so based on the assumption that it won in the taste test, they rolled out. And that assumption cost them significant dollars, loss of market share, quite an embarrassment. And the moral of that is when you, oh, look at this, here. I always like doing this one. Watch, I'll make it disappear. How's that? See? See, you're making an assumption right now. See, the power of assumption is when you make an assumption and you treat it as a truth rather than a set of beliefs. It's very easy to watch your profits disappear. Now, we're not here to talk about, I mean, we could talk about case histories all night of people that followed the wrong assumption, but we're really here to talk about a process to innovate, a process that is going to help you really think differently, really think differently. And what I'd like to do is demonstrate it in a very, very simple way. You see, I believe that the principle of assumption has a power. And if we understand that power, we can use it in many, many different ways. So for example, this is a silver dollar. Now, ma'am, can I ask you, how many silver dollars do you think I have in this hand? One. In one. See, that would be the assumption. But if you were to challenge that assumption, where would that lead you? How many would be in this hand if you were to challenge that assumption? Zero. Right. That's exactly right. You see, one minute you think the coin is in this hand, but if you were to challenge that assumption, you discover the coin is not in this hand. And in essence, you would have discovered the coin is still in the left hand. In other words, you would have discovered a new business solution that you did not think existed before. You see, we live in a world where there's so much information that after a while, we all begin to believe the same information. And when we all start thinking alike, nobody is truly thinking. So the fastest way, I believe, the fastest way to innovate, to create, to generate new ideas is, in a sense, to follow the other hand. Everyone will be looking at this hand. You challenge that assumption, and you begin to follow the other hand. Dan, right? It's Dan, Jay, Leon, can you come up, please? Let's give him a nice round of applause. Leon, come on up here. Since you were the last one I told, you'll be the last one to perform here. This is Mike Knight. There we go. All right, I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. All right. So Dan, I'm going to let you go first. Jay, you're going to go second. And Leon will go third. And I give you Daniele.
So I have a young daughter who enjoys being mystified. She invites me to school one day and said, "Dad, do some magic." So I say, "Okay." And out of my pocket, I pull the coin and say, "Okay, everyone, watch closely. And you will see that a coin has disappeared."
Yay! Terrific. Terrific. Thank you. All right. Jay. J.D., the great J.D.
I was sitting at the semi-Cuban table with one Peruvian in the back. The biggest obstacle that we had there was for keeping the cord in your hand. Whenever I run like this and try to get it into my other hand, it would disappear and somebody else would grab it.
Excellent. Leon the Magnificent.
Well, from India, and I've got a rupee coin out here, which I'm going to try and make disappear. And I'm going to ask you to tell me which hand it is.
It's in that hand.
You're right.
Great. Thank you very much. Leon, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, you deserve to know the greatest secret in all of magic, and I think the greatest secret in all of business. And here it is. The secret isn't the secret. The secret isn't the secret. The secret is you. The secret is you. Now, why do I believe that? You see, I just taught all of you the same trick in the same way, exactly at the same time. Exactly at the same time. And yet, when Dan and Leon and Jay got up, and I watched each of you perform on your own, everybody performs it differently. You see, the important thing is, it's not to try to understand what somebody else's secret is. Because you could figure out their secret, and then you do it, and all you're doing is mimicking them. And most companies that try to mimic someone else's secret do not succeed. The companies that do succeed answer the question is, what is my magic?